What's up guys, Mitch here. A while ago, I reviewed the Rosewild RK6000 Striker, which I said was great for the $50 price tag. I still stand by that, but today we are going to be taking a look at the Logitech G710 Plus, my new mechanical keyboard. Also, let me know with a comment down below if you're interested in seeing a custom DIY PC desk. Starting off with the design of the keyboard. There's an awesome gray surrounding the outside of the keyboard that I think looks awesome. It's not glossy, but the color has very cool shininess to it without being a fingerprint magnet. There's a G logo on a piece of metal at the bottom of the keyboard, which looks great. On the complete other hand, the middle of the keyboard is glossy plastic. In my opinion, this is the worst part of the design. Glossy plastic may look good for the first 10 seconds out of the box, but after you touch it, there's no going back. Trying to clean it left micro scratches all along the inside of the keyboard, and there are still fingerprints. I wish Logitech and every other company would cut glossy plastic out of their designs. If the matte plastic the rest of the keyboard is made out of extended through the rest of the keyboard, I would be much happier. Now with that slight rant out of the way, let's talk about the rest of the design. The keyboard has 110 mechanical keys, the standard 104 key layout with the number pad, as well as 6 additional macro keys on the left side of the keyboard. Along the top of the keyboard are the 4 M keys, M1 through 3 and MR. These, along with 6 macro buttons, allow for 18 additional functions to be added. If you want to add a macro, hit the MR key, then choose a G key, type your macro, and hit the MR key again to save it. Next to those keys, you also get an OS key disable button. This doesn't allow the OS button to register, useful when playing games so you don't end up on the desktop like we have all done. All the keys are backlit, and this is controlled by 2 buttons in the middle. You can only light WASD in the arrow keys, everything except those, or the whole keyboard, along with 4 brightness settings. Finally, on the right side of the keyboard you get your media controls. Play, pause, stop, forward and back, as well as mute. And finally, my favorite part about the design of the keyboard, the volume wheel. This is so nice to use. Instead of having to take the time to open the volume for the system tray, you can easily adjust the volume right from the keyboard. Plugging into the computer can be done with either 1 or 2 USB ports. One is used to power the keyboard for data transfer, and the other is used as a USB pass-through on the back of the keyboard. I have my mouse plugged into that, so if I switch computers, I only need to switch the keyboard and both peripherals work fine. If you're on a laptop or have a computer with limited USB ports, you can just use the connector with the picture of the keyboard on it. This also powers the backlight, so that works with only one port as well. On the bottom of the keyboard, you get 2 very nice kickstands to slightly angle the keyboard towards you. There's also some very good non-slip material that stops the keyboard from sliding around. For headphone users, there's also a place to run your cable through, which I took advantage of. One thing I didn't like was the cable. It's very thick and a hard rubber material, unlike the very nice braided cable of the Striker. It also isn't very long. I fixed this with a USB hub and USB extender, but if you need a long cable and an extender isn't an option, you may need to look elsewhere. Not a deal breaker for me though. As I said, there is a USB pass-through, but there isn't a 3.5mm jack pass-through, which some of Logitech's other products do have. Now on to what comes with the keyboard. Honestly, it is pretty simple. You get the keyboard itself, which is wrapped in plastic and protected nicely in the box. You also get a smooth wrist rest, which is the same type of paint as the outside of the keyboard. Nothing to complain about there. Surprisingly, that is it. There isn't any additional keys or even a keycap puller. For me, I just used one from a different keyboard. But looking at the price, you can get this keyboard for usually less than $100 now. That is understandable. There are 110 Cherry MX Brown switches in use here. Let's talk about those. I have used the Alps Blue for an extended period of time, but also use Cherry MX Blues as well. Browns have become my new favorite key switch. They are nice and tactile, but not as loud as the MX Blues, which sound great for a while, but can get quite annoying during long typing sessions. Here's a quick comparison between the Alps Blues and MX Browns. New favorite key switch. They are nice and tactile, but not as loud as the MX Blues, which sound great for a while, but can get quite annoying during long typing sessions. Here's a quick comparison between the Alps Blues and MX Browns. As you can see, the Browns are much quieter. Logitech also pre-installs O-rings, and basically what these do if you don't know, they shorten the key travel slightly, and also lower the volume of the keyboard. They're also pretty good at training you not to bottom out, as on a mechanical keyboard, the keys do not need to be pushed all the way down to register the stroke. So learning not to bottom out can increase your typing speed, and lower the fatigue of long typing sessions. These are easily removable if you decide you like the typing experience better without them. Also, since these are standard Cherry MX stems, unlike the Alp stems, you can easily find many replacement keycaps to replace or customize your keyboard. If you're a video editor, for example, you can purchase keycaps with the hotkeys printed on it. Not as useful for some people who customize their hotkeys like me, but cool nonetheless. The keyboard also has 26 key rollover, which basically means unless you are pressing more than 26 keys at a time, you will not have any problems with missed keystrokes. The Logitech gaming software is also in use with this keyboard, which allows you to program macros and different levels or macros using this software if you don't want to do it from the keyboard itself, which I mentioned earlier. You're also able to see which keys you press the most and how long you hold down each key if you're into that sort of thing. I've had the keyboard for over a month and haven't used this at all. In here, there are also many options for useful functions with the macro keys, like opening the calculator and even having some mouse functions if you want a click of the mouse to be done on the keyboard. Okay, mostly useful things. There are also some pretty useless things, like the media controls, because there are dedicated buttons built into the keyboard, but I guess they could be useful if the keys were broken. Overall, the software is only really useful for adding functions that are not just keystrokes, which are easier to do on the keyboard itself. Now onto my complaints of the keyboard. There aren't many, and most of them are very slight. The layout of the keyboard can take a while to get used to if you're used to using a keyboard without anything to the left of the shift key. But after a couple days at most, I was up to full speed with this keyboard. You also really don't get much else with the keyboard, so if that's what you were looking for, this may not be the keyboard for you. But as I mentioned earlier, different types of keycaps can be purchased to change your keyboard. Also, if you need a keycap puller, those are super cheap on eBay or Amazon. Finally, there's the glossy plastic, which really bugs me. Mostly just because I'd like to keep my keyboard clean, and with fingerprints all over it, it's hard to do. But it really isn't that big of a problem, as long as glossy plastic is never used again in any keyboard ever. Overall, I highly recommend this keyboard. I wouldn't purchase it at full retail price of $130, but if you can find it for under $100, I give it a full recommendation. It is full Cherry Mix Browns, and all of the quality that comes with that, as well as being made by Logitech, and I've had great experience with their support team. The typing experience is great, and compared to my previous mechanical keyboard, this blows it out of the water, for only an extra $30 for what I paid. Definitely worth the upgrade for me, and I can see using this keyboard for a long time to come. That's all for my review of the Logitech G710 Plus. If you enjoyed it, let me know in a comment down below, and also subscribe if you want to see more videos just like this one. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.